This man cannot remain in power.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my new video. Back to doing some normal videos today, talking about all of the latest news that's happening around the world. There is no free time really. Every single day there seems to be something happening. Obviously today's big news is the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Boris Johnson, is going to be leaving today. He's already given his resignation as a Tory leader. He's probably going to be resigning as PM maybe later on this evening. He just can't stay on any longer. He just can't stay on. This Prime Minister is basically one of those horror villains, you know, those horror monsters that you get in the 80s and 90s, and you think you've killed them. You basically kill them and then they come back from the dead. You throw them out the window, you look down and the bodies disappeared, and they come back from the dead and they jump out of you from the cupboard. This is what's happening to Boris. People are killing him and killing him and killing him. He keeps coming back from the dead, and basically you just can't kick him while he's down. He just keeps disappearing, coming out of the cupboard, coming out of the woodwork. And I think this is it though. This is going to be like the final you know, come back from the dead moment. I just don't think he's going to come back from this. I'm not celebrating as of yet. I mean, this guy has completely destroyed the UK's economy ever since he started coming into power. Every single one of his decisions have cost Britain, have cost the people of Britain, and it's a shambles because of his power, because of his policies. England has become an absolute shambles. People are going into poverty. People are really struggling to make ends meet. And I wouldn't blame the world, what's happening around the world. You know, you as a Prime Minister, you need to make decisions which will basically cushion you from whatever's happening around the world. There's no point blaming Putin. There's no point blaming, you know, the inflation that's happening around the world, or gas prices. You know, you need to make steps which is going to help your country survive from all of these issues that's happening around the world. I mean, look at China. Look at their inflation. It's literally non-existent. It's not happening around China. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of things that Boris has done which have absolutely destroyed the country. You got to start with Brexit. I'm not blaming him for Brexit, but I blame him for his policies, what he's done after Brexit. He went to the Brexit meeting and literally ticked all the boxes just because he wanted to be the Prime Minister who basically sorted out Brexit. So he ticked all the boxes, says yes, yes, yes to everything. A few days later, he's like, oh my God, I don't oh, what about Northern Ireland? Oh, can we, go back on our word? Or can we change the rules now? Basically, he just doesn't have a clue. And then you have COVID, and obviously you can't blame him for COVID, but you got to blame him for the policies. They went on a reckless spending spree, printing all sorts of pounds, and you can print your dollars when you have the world reserve currency, and that's what America's been doing. You have the dollar as world reserve currency, so they can go ahead and print as many dollars as they want, because the inflation basically spreads out to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world uses the dollar for petrodollar and energy costs. So that's what America's been doing, but you can't do that with the pound. The pound is not the world reserve currency. So when you overprint the pound, obviously it's going to cause a lot of inflation in UK, and that's what's happened. All of his policies, he's been kicking out all investments from China because he wanted to be anti-Chinese like the Americans. So he kicked out all investments from China, which means China wasn't investing anymore in Britain. Kicked out all of the companies like Huawei. Then he's done the same with Russian companies. This was before the war. He basically alienated himself from the rest of the world. He just turned Britain into an island. I mean, you have your biggest trading partner, Europe, and he's just alienated himself from the rest of Europe. And this is why, British trade with Europe has fell down a cliff, while European trade amongst themselves had risen, while Britain's trade with Europe had gone down. You can't have a trade deal going all the way to Japan and all the way to Australia. I mean, look at the cost of shipping. The cost of shipping have gone up by like 100%. So it makes no sense having trading partners all the way in Australia and all the way in Japan. Your main trading partner, your main goal should be Europe. And this is what Brexit has destroyed. And this guy was a proud advocate of Brexit. And I can understand Britain wanted to be independent from the Europeans. I mean, what a bunch of jokers. I mean, I agree with that. But then there's no point being a poodle for the United States instead. Now you become a BITCH for the United States. And the United States have been promising Britain with a free trade deal for ages. And recently they said, no, we're not going to give it. So what is the point of becoming a BITCH for the United States if you're not going to get anything from them? Absolutely ridiculous. He himself has destroyed Britain's economy, has destroyed British manufacturing, and I just don't have words for him. I mean, this guy was doing parties when there was lockdowns in place, people were dying and not allowed to see their family members, and this guy was partying in number 10 Downing Street. Whenever he comes on meetings or press conferences, or he makes a speech, he babbles on like he's drunk, like that famous speech about Peppa Pig. And this guy feels like he's always drinking, he's never on the job. And one of the things he needed to do after Brexit was go to every single country and work out trade deals with every single country. He's done none of that. He'd rather go to Ukraine and send all of our money to Ukraine rather than going to every single country, sorting out trade deals, sorting out life after Brexit. He's done none of that. I mean, what kind of Prime Minister is he? He just wanted to be a Prime Minister just for the sake of it. Just to have that PM next to his name. He didn't want to do any work for it. And that's what's happened. In his time of power, that's what's happened. I'm not celebrating that he's leaving, because whoever's taking charge is probably going to do an even worse job, because it wasn't just his decision with all of the Ukraine stuff. He was the whole Tory backbenchers, it was all the Labour Party guys. So as you can see, his replacements are not very good. I mean, you got all of these replacements here. You got Rishi Sunak, you got Liz Truss, you got Sajid. None of them are any good. They're all a bunch of jokers. And right now, Ben Wallace seems to be the favourite. But I don't know. I just hope it's not Liz Truss. Because if it's Liz Truss, she's going to make things a million times worse. But whoever comes along, whether it's Ben Wallace or anyone else, you know they're gonna do an equally crappy job. They're not gonna make anything better. So like I said, this guy that he hired, Nadim Zahawi, as the next chancellor. So Nadim Zahawi apparently stabbed Boris in the back, and he was supposed to be one of the most staunchest allies of Boris, but he wrote this letter asking for Boris to leave, and to leave with his head held high, and I think Boris felt like he's been backstabbed. He's been backstabbed by Rishi Sunak and the other guy as well. I can't remember the name, but yeah, like I said, Boris is like that, really, famous villain that you can't kill. Every time you try and kill them, they come back from the dead, or they come out of the closet. You just can't kill them. You just can't put them down. They just keep coming back. But I just think this is the final straw for Boris that broke his back, to be honest. I don't think there's any coming back from this. So this is life in Britain. As you know, you can see it's just doom and gloom. Everywhere you look, it's really, really bad. 80% of all Brits have less than 500 in their account. Lloyd's boss warns hordes of people are slipping into debt. And everywhere you look, people are having money issues or struggling with money. But I want to kind of start off with this idiot of the day story. So farmers have cut food production as costs soar. So the idiot of the day is basically this one. Lurpak responds to diabolical rising price of butter. So basically, butter is now £6 or £7 a tub. And what's worse is Asda is putting security tags on butter in case anyone steals it. I mean, you can see here, this is the picture. So this is the idiot of the day. Lurpak butter is £6 a tub in Asda, and it even has a security tag on it in case people steal it. And this seems to be happening all over the supermarkets, all over UK. There seems to be security tags in all the food items, anything over £5. So they're probably getting a lot of people stealing food, and so they're having to put security tags on food items, and it's absolutely hilarious. This is the first time in my life I have ever seen food security tags in a supermarket, and this is what's coming in UK. Unfortunately, this is what's going to be happening all over UK, and it's absolutely hilarious. And this is why this is the idiot of the day, but it's very sad idiot of the day, unfortunately. So this is the legacy that Boris is leaving behind. As you can see, farmers have cut food production. They can't import a lot of the stuff from Russia and Ukraine at the moment, and I'm going to go into that in a bit, because it looks like Russia's going to do wheat for rubles as well, so I'll go into that in a bit. But you can see UK, they're cutting food production as well. There'll be less food, and this is why I have said in this channel, make sure if you are living in UK, guys, make sure you stock up on food. Especially dried food that's going to last you a long time, like pasta, dried pasta, long life pasta sauces, just basically stuff that's going to last you long time, like tuna, sweet corn. If you guys want to join my Patreon, I can give you this big list that I've created for myself, and this is the stuff that I've been doing. So if you're living in UK, I would really, really recommend this. There's other stuff that's going on around the world, like in Netherlands as well. I'm going to go into that as well. So you really do need to do something about it, to stock up on food, because there's going to come a time when food is going to be so expensive. People are going to be fighting over it in the supermarkets. They're going to go in and cause riots and steal the stuff, and there won't be any food left, and there's going to be massive chaos happening over the next few months. So if I was you, I would really stock up on this stuff. And as you know, all of these predictions I've made before, they're all coming true now. This is just going to get worse and worse, so don't say I didn't warn you guys. You got huge problems in Holland as well, with Dutch farmers blocking supermarket warehouses and roads and protests. This is not reported anywhere in the UK. There's reports that Dutch police are shooting these protesters and farmers. The shooting using real bullets. They haven't hit any farmers as of yet, but they are hitting their equipment. So, I think Dutch police, they are a really strange bunch. And I have been to Amsterdam a few times, and I basically was walking down Amsterdam a few times, and there's a couple of Dutch police officers basically stopped a couple of young guys in front of us, and they were being really, really tough on them, pushing them around and being really, really aggressive. And one of the Dutch officers said to one of the guys, "Where are you from?" And one of the guys said, "Oh, he's from Belgium or something." And he said, "Alright, okay, fine." And he asked another one of the guys, he goes, "Where are you from?" And he said, "Oh, he's from, he lives in Amsterdam, he's Dutch." So, as soon as he said that, he started slapping him around, slapping him in his face, punching him. They're really, really aggressive. So basically, what's happened, when a Dutch police officer asks you, "Where are you from?" you have to say you're from abroad, because if you say you're from Holland, or you're from Amsterdam, or you're local, they start beating you up. And it's like, in front of us, they're literally, being heavy-handed, punching him, slapping him, proper being, really heavy-handed. I think he was basically smoking weed in the streets or something, obviously. But yeah, then that's not the point. The point is, in front of all of these tourists, in front of all these people, they were just beating these kids up, just because they can do it. And it looks like they only do it to Dutch people that live there. They obviously don't do it to foreigners in case they get in trouble. But yeah, it's crazy. So this is what's happening to Holland at the moment. And like I said, this is not being reported. And this is going to make things worse for all of the food crisis that's happening around the world. And things are going to get much, much worse now. You can see Russia introduces new payment rules for grain exports. And now they're going to be saying that only friendly countries will receive supplies, and they must be paid for in rubles. And this is really, really bad news for the unfriendly countries that have been against Russia, and we're talking about Europe here. So especially Britain, as you can see, with all of these food shortages going on. And don't forget, Holland is actually one of the biggest food exporters in Europe. They have a lot of fertile ground. They have a huge agricultural sector. They also have a lot of vertical farms as well. Holland is a very major food exporter in Holland. And if Holland is cracking down on food, Britain is having lower food shortages. Russia is now cracking down on food shortages as well. There's going to be real trouble in Europe over the next few months. It's not going to affect America much, because America is pretty much self-sufficient when it comes to food. So I don't think it'll affect America, but this is going to really affect Europe, and in a big way. Yeah, so watch this space, guys. I'm just, this is going to be really bad news. So Russia, obviously you can see this title here. Russia have gone too far. Kremlin sends 3 warships off Taiwan's coast. So they're saying, why has Russia gone too far then? So basically, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a lot of joint patrols going on between Russia and China along the Japanese coast, or along the Taiwanese coast. This is basically sending out a message that Russia and China are basically shoulder to shoulder. And there's a lot of neocons and a lot of people pushing for a war with China over Taiwan. So one thing they haven't really thought about is Russia's, involvement if this war ever comes. And this should be a real great message to all of these neocons and the West as well, that Russia's not going to be standing behind if there is a war with China. They will stand with China. They might not fight in the front lines, like same as how Russia's fighting with Ukraine, and China is obviously giving Russia a lot of moral support. They'll probably give China a lot of moral support, but they'll also give China what they need in terms of energy, because one of the things that this war will happen is the whole of the West will probably try and blockade China, blockade any oil and gas coming through the Middle East. They're going to blockade the Malacca coast and, you know, Malacca Strait, I mean, and this is what's going to happen. But China's not going to care much, because Russia is now the biggest supplier of energy in terms of gas, in terms of oil. They have pipelines going into China which are in progress, 3 new pipelines going into China. They have loads of rail lines linking Russia to China, so there's going to be a lot of oil going into China using rail lines, roads as well. So they don't need to blockade the sea. Even if they try to blockade the sea, I like to see how they can do it, because Russia and China have got a huge amount of submarines, and you know, any if they try and blockade these sea lanes, Russia and China are not going to hold back. They will basically use their subs and blow up these ships that try to blockade it. So it's going to be if there is a war, there's going to be major economic issues, not only happening to China but also to the West as well, because China is the factory of the world, and if China stops supplying the rest of the world its cheap products, you know, the rest of the world would really suffer, because they're going to have to start making stuff themselves, and the cost of goods or cost of prices are just going to rise like 10 times, and people won't be able to afford it. So it's going to be a huge amount of chaos going on. So all of these neocons talking about war with China, then you have these idiots from MI5 and FBI talking about an immense threat, and they're obviously talking about China, and it's absolutely ridiculous. What the hell does the MI5 and FBI worry about China for? They have their own issues back home. They need to look at their own issues. Like, there's still issues with terrorism around the world, and there's still issues with terrorism locally in UK. I'm sure the FBI has hundreds and hundreds of people in the FBI most wanted list they need to focus on. You know, look at your own problems at home, guys. So there's also major issues happening with Japan. Japan is also having a huge amounts of inflation happening. There's have huge economic issues as well. And Russia has recently kicked them out of ownership from Sakhalin 2, and which Japan had a major stake in it. And basically now it means that Japan has to compete with Europe with energy around the world, and obviously from the Middle East and other investments as well. And all of this stuff is just going to push up oil prices and gas prices even more. And the Japan industry is going to suffer, because they're going to have to buy more expensive oil, and they're going to have to ship it from a longer distance. So Japan is having the same issues Europe is having. They're having to buy more expensive oil and gas from abroad, rather than cheap Russian oil and energy as well. I also want to touch base with a certain channel which talked about China announces exit from Western oil and gas, making Russian oil and gas collaboration more likely. So I had a look at this video, and what he says is right. China is exiting a lot of Western oil and gas basically investments, and they have been doing it for a while now. I mean, it's all part of you know, China's trying to protect itself from eventual embargo. You know how the rest of the West is basically sanctioning Russia in every single possible way. So Russia, China is looking at that, and they are trying to protect themselves from these sanctions. If there was a war in the Taiwanese Strait, China does not want to be in a position where they are basically targeted the same way Russia is being targeted. So China is moving a lot of investments, not just oil and gas, but a lot of investments from the Western market. And this is happening all across the board right now. And there's recently been a meeting between President Xi and all of the bankers in China as well, and they're basically discussing ways they can protect themselves protect the central bank as well, if America decides to seize all of the assets as well, the same way they've done to Russia. So China is basically selling all of these Western oil and gas assets. But this guy, Joe Blogs, he's basically saying that China's losing out because they put all of these investments in it and they're basically going to lose all that money. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's the case at all. A lot of people don't understand how businesses work. If you build up a business from scratch and you need to sell it at the height of its business, at the height of its cost, because right now these oil investments around the West are very, very highly needed around the world, because you look at gas prices, oil prices, they're really, really expensive. So all of these investments are like gold at the moment. So if you sell it, you will sell it at a really, really big profit. So I don't think Chinese companies will lose out at all. They will make a huge profit, because all of these oil businesses around the world, they are basically become like gold. They're very rare, and if they sell their stakes, there are many oil businesses around the world who will gladly buy these stakes for a really good price. And you just have to look at the market right now. With whoever buys into these businesses will pay a high price for it, and they will get high returns, and that's how it works. If you have a business and your business is doing really well and you make a lot of money, someone's going to come in and buy that business and make money as well, but they're going to have to pay a high price for that business, because obviously they have really high returns. So they're going to have to pay a very, very high price. So this is why Chinese companies will make a huge profit. They will sell it at a huge profit right now. And the most important thing is, if they don't sell it, these assets will basically be taken for free later on down the line. So they're better off just selling it now, get a good price for it. And they can also obviously invest in some Russian oil and gas collaboration. There's a lot of it happening around the Northern Sea route, around the Arctic as well. There's a lot of new oil fields being found along that coast as well. So there's a lot of oil to be found yet. The world has only found maybe around 10% of the oil so far. There's still 90% of it still undiscovered, especially around the Arctic. So there's plenty of oil to be found. But I don't agree with him. I think the Chinese businesses will make a very, very huge profit, plus the headache of all of these being risky. If in the eventual, when there's a Taiwanese when war, for example, if there's a war along the Taiwanese Strait, all of these assets will be taken away for free. So it's better for these Chinese companies to sell them now and not having the headache of being taken away for free later on. Now we are coming to the second idiot of the day, and Biden is basically selling US oil reserves abroad. These reserves are supposed to be for emergencies, or if US is at war, they need these reserves. So what Biden is doing is getting rid of these reserves, selling it abroad, and guess what? The prices are going up. So if US wants to kind of fill these reserves up again, the prices have gone up, so it's going to be more expensive for them. It just makes no sense. It's absolutely ridiculous and stupid at the same time. And you have people like Tucker Carlson and loads of people basically in the US are basically calling for Biden's impeachment because of this, because this is really, really stupid behavior. You release your gas reserves to reduce the price of oil, but your prices of oil are going up. And the reason they're going up because US is just basically after money, and they're just selling these oil abroad rather than using it to get their oil prices down or the gas prices down. And that was the initial intention. That was the intention, said by Biden at the time. By releasing these oil reserves, it's going to bring the prices down of gas. But the prices have gone up. And all of these oil reserves that they basically, took them out of the reserves for the local market to bring down oil prices, that's not happening. Basically, all of these reserves are being sold abroad. And this is why oil prices are going through the roof in America. It's also going through the roof in the UK as well. But let's not talk about UK for now. Let's focus on US. And it's basically, that's the point of releasing reserves, is you want to basically bring down oil prices in your home market. Bring down US oil prices, and obviously US oil prices are not going down. All of these oil barons and oil companies are making a huge profit. If America actually stopped these oil barons from selling abroad and just focus on, local population to bring the gas prices down, then that would have brought the gas prices down easily. And this is one of the reasons they had to release the reserves to bring the gas prices down. But they're not going down, they're just shooting up, because all of these gas companies are just looking for a profit. They're just selling more of the gas, oil and gas abroad to make a bigger profit, rather than selling it at home. They are making a huge killing, and it's in their interest to make sure that these oil and gas prices are high, because this is how they make money. They don't care about the average citizen in the US. They don't care about how much they have to pay in the gas pump. As long as they're making a profit, that's all that happened. That's all that counts. And this is the problem with capitalism in the United States, and this is why people call it a plutocracy rather than a democracy, because plutocracy is basically this basically covers the needs of the 1% of the population, who are the richest 1%, and this is what America is. It's basically feeding the lives, feeding the billionaires, feeding the arms companies, the oil companies. They rather care about their profits rather than the profits of the general population. And this is the problem of the world, and this is the problem of America, which they need to sort out. Because if this doesn't stop, there's going to be riots in the streets, if this escalates, if the gas prices get up to a certain level. They're also talking about implementing price caps as well. And this is just going to bite them back in their bums very quickly. Because China have said they're not going to do it. India have said they're not going to do it. The rest of the world are not going to follow the West's plan. The West are just going to shoot themselves in the foot again. Russia's going to retaliate in some way, either blocking their gas and oil, and all of this stuff is just going to raise prices even more. The gas price, oil price is a very volatile market, and moves like that is just going to bring up prices even more. So it's just not going to work. Absolutely not. It's crazy. So Biden is also in trouble as well. So this is the idiot of the day I wanted to talk about. So Biden is on the hot seat because he's selling these reserves that he's releasing from America's reserves. He's actually selling it to China. So he's in some really serious trouble. Then you have all of these news anchors basically calling for Biden to be impeached because he's selling the reserves to China. So let me tell you something. It really doesn't matter where Biden is selling these oil reserves. If they don't sell it to China, they're just going to sell it somewhere else. They're going to sell it to Europe. They're going to sell it to Asia, other Asia country. They don't care where they sell it as long as they make money. So you can't just blame China for it. I mean, these are the guys who are going out selling it to China. It's not China's fault. If China says, yeah, we want to buy oil, they're not saying to you, oh, we want your oil that you've released as part of your reserves. We want that oil. They're not going to say that. They just want oil. If you've got a seller out there and you're going out and selling it to China, the fault lies not with China, but the sellers themselves. Right? So it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, why blame China for it? I mean, these guys are actively selling it to China, so they're the ones that need to get in trouble, not China themselves. China didn't ask for this, and if they don't sell it to China, they're going to sell it somewhere else. And look at this, US Gulf Coast oil exports set for record high. So you can see there's huge amounts of exports of oil happening in the United States, and they're set for a record high. So tell me something, why are they exporting so much oil when the oil prices are going up at home? Why can't they just sell it at home and reduce the oil price. I mean, that's the logical thing to do. But no, I mean, these companies just want to make a huge profit. And I also want to talk about, China and India. So there's a lot of people blaming China and India for buying Russian gas, Russian oil, but they are actually helping the cost go down. I actually read an article the other day. Imagine this: if basically China had stopped buying Russian oil and gas, and if India stopped buying Russian oil and gas, can you imagine the mayhem that would cause around the world? Can you imagine it? Because there is no substitute for Russian oil and gas around the world. There isn't. So China and India will have to compete with Europe in the Middle East. They will have to buy more gas and oil from the Middle East. And where's gonna be where is Europe going to buy its oil and gas? Obviously, they're going to buy it from the Middle East as well. America doesn't have enough. America has, enough for its own self. Then, it doesn't have enough to kind of serve the rest of the world. So if you take Russia out of the market, can you imagine the oil prices and gas prices? They would shoot up. They will go double, even triple what it is right now. People don't really think about things like that. So you have all of these neocons and media people basically kicking China, kicking India, saying, oh, you shouldn't buy stuff from Russia, blah, blah, blah. But if they actually stop buying from Russia, can you imagine the chaos that would cause? The amount of riots. Imagine the gas pumps going, £100, £200, £300. It's going to be crazy. There'll be riots in the streets. So the fact that China and India are buying stuff from Russia, it actually keeps the costs down. Just think about it. Think about it, guys. So I saw this article and I just laughed. It says Russia should not fear defensive NATO. This is from the US. Does anyone really believe any of this BS coming from the US that the NATO is defensive? I mean, NATO bombed Yugoslavia. NATO bombed Libya into what it is today. Destroyed the country. It bombed Iraq. It bombed Afghanistan. So how can you call it a defensive organization? And what the hell is NATO doing bombing Afghanistan, Libya, Iraq? They're not in Europe last time I checked. So how is that defensive? It's absolutely crazy how they want Russia and the rest of the world to believe that NATO is defensive when they have actually gone to wars of aggression with countries not even part of North Atlantic. And now they have, basically threatening China as well. So how can you call them defensive? It's absolutely ridiculous. So I want to talk about a major news that's happened coming out of China, that they have basically bought around 300 planes, Airbus planes, rather than Boeing planes. This is a real big deal to Boeing. Boeing has basically, before all of this trade war was happening, I mean, before even Trump started the trade war, there was talks of Boeing selling planes to China totaling 1 trillion of basically planes that were looking to basically sell to China before all of this trade war happened. And every year, China was buying lots of planes and Boeing parts, and it was basically making Boeing a lot of money back then. And then Trump started this ridiculous trade war, and China basically stopped buying Boeing aircrafts after that. It started buying Airbus. And Boeing is suffering as a result. Their share prices have gone down by 40%. And this news has brought their share prices even one of the lowest in their history. Obviously Boeing's not happy, but this is what you get. America has been blacklisting Chinese companies. They have been asking Boeing to stop supplying parts to China as well. With all of these trade war and all of these sanctions that America is placing on China, they really have no choice. And now they're hitting America where it hurts. So during this times of crisis, when if China had actually bought 300 planes from Boeing, they would have had factories of workers working throughout, this recession, and they would have made money even when the rest of the world is suffering from recession and all of that. And now all of these jobs are going to be going to Europe and not Boeing. So you can imagine what Boeing is going through. The rest of the world's airlines are going through a crisis. There's a big crisis happening in UK where flights are being cancelled left, right and centre. They just don't have the staff, and also they just can't afford the huge flight costs nowadays. If there's a long distance flight, they just can't afford it, mainly because they can't fly through Russia anymore, and as you know, Russia is a big airspace, so they have to pay for more fuel flying around Russia. And for some of these aircrafts, it's just not worth it. A lot of them have not made their money back after COVID. They're still suffering from COVID, and a lot of airlines are going bust around the world. So Boeing is having serious issues because of all of this. And now one of the biggest airline industries in China is now coming out of COVID, and they had to buy these airlines. And you might say China's building its own airlines as well, so why does it need Airbus? So this is mainly because Airbus is needed for international flights. The Chinese airplanes have not got international license to fly, basically do international flights. Right now they can fly around China, do local flights. So this is what's happening. All the Chinese airlines that they're building, the A919 Comac, they're going to be used mainly for local flights, but the Airbus itself, they're mainly going to be used for international flights, and this is why they need Airbus. But after this, China's going to be building a brand new airline with Russia, and that's coming out in 2025, and that's going to be an international flight worthy airline as well. It's going to be much better than the C919, and it's going to have all the latest technology. It's going to have all the Russian jets and parts as well. So China and Russia is working together on that, and that's going to come out in 2025, and it's going to be one of the most greenest airplanes ever built as well. It's going to be very much green focused. So once that comes out, Airbus and Boeing Day is going to be numbered, really. So that's going to be a really big game changer. So you can see here, Beijing says Chinese airlines are in talks days after the European manufacturer seals a 37 billion deal for A320s. And basically what they're saying is Chinese airlines are in talks to buy its A220 aircraft as well. So there's more in the horizon. There's much more deals to be made with Airbus, and Boeing is looking at that, and Americans are looking at that and thinking, bloody hell, what have we done with this trade war? Because you cannot deny the Chinese market, guys. I mean, you've got 1.4 billion people, and most of its people are coming out of poverty. 800 million people have come out of poverty over the last 5-10 years. And imagine all of these people, they're going to have jobs, they're going to have cars, they're going to want to travel, they're going to want to see the world. So there's going to be a huge increase in Chinese air travel, and this is what happens when you start doing these ridiculous trade wars with the major country, with for no apparent reason whatsoever, except you just want to keep them down. It would have been much easier to trade with China. China will eventually become a number one economy, mainly because of its people, 1.4 billion people. And if these 1.4 billion people start coming out of poverty, start basically working, making money, spending money, it's natural that China will become a number one economy. It's natural. I mean, they don't need to export around the world. They have the local economy, which is going to be run by the 1.4 billion people. And that should be enough to just put China at the top. But imagine that plus all of these export market that China has. You just cannot stop China's rise. And whatever America's doing, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. And this is a perfect example of it. So finally, I want to just finish off with the Ukrainian war. As you know, Russia has basically liberated Luhansk area. And I saw this article from the Daily Telegraph, and you can see they are changing their tune, whatever that they're reporting. you know, if you see what they were reporting a few months ago, they were saying Russia's losing, blah blah blah, and they would only like report Russian losses. They're not gonna, and they would just report Ukrainian propaganda. They will never ever print out any truth. And this is one of the truth articles that have come out of them recently, and you can see the papers have changed their tune about Ukraine. Nobody cares about Ukraine anymore. Everyone's more worried about all these cost of living crisis. You know, you're basically more worried about feeding your kids and keeping your kids warm rather than thinking about Ukraine. So here he says Russia destroys 2 US-made HIMARS rocket systems, and these HIMARS were supposed to be game changers, and you know, Ukrainians were saying, oh, these are game changers, and you know, this is going to turn the tide in the war. And everybody I heard talking about this, and everyone I spoke to, and even I spoke about it, these are not going to be game changers. These are really major big weapons, and you try and move them across Ukraine, you know, Russia will find it using drones or satellite images, or you know, or from spy planes, or they'll, you know, basically be given away by spies, or maybe there's a lot of support for Russia basically from its local people as well. So if anyone sees anything like this in their neighborhood, I'm sure they'll kind of let Russia know. You know, there's a lot of people in Luhansk, in Donetsk, really happy with their liberation and help from Russia, and a lot of people around Ukraine are also, you know, are welcoming Russia as well. And there's a lot of interview I've seen in basically Telegram saying how happy people are that Russians have liberated them, and basically Ukrainians are not happy. They are being sent to their deaths. These young kids who just want to live, they just want to live a good life and be happy and live in a peaceful world, they're being captured all over Ukraine, and they've just been sent to the front lines to die. You know, there's about 300 to 500 Ukrainians dying daily still. There's still rocket attacks daily happening. And the West is no longer reporting things like Russia's running out of missiles, because everyone knows that story was BS, and now they're not even reporting that anymore. You know, and these HIMARS were supposed to be game changers, and you know, it's absolutely hilarious that they didn't even last a day. They're just being destroyed. You know, I just don't know how long Ukraine can survive. Ukraine has recently asked for 750 billion or something to reconstruct Ukraine. Basically, he's not going to reconstruct, you know, Donetsk or Luhansk areas. You know, the biggest damages was happening in Mariupol and Severodonetsk areas and things like that. You know, he's not going to give any money to that, because that area is not owned by Ukraine anymore. So he'll want that money to be for Kiev. He'll want that money for Lviv, for example. And also a lot of that money will probably go to his corrupt team as well. He'll probably pocket most of it himself, and a lot of the money will probably go into the military industrial complex as well. So all of that money he wants. How is he going to get it? He obviously wants it from all of these assets that the West have taken from Russia, all of the assets they've taken from the oligarchs as well. So they want to steal that and give it to Ukraine. I don't think that's going to work. As soon as that happens, Russia's just going to stop the gas. They're just going to say, you know what, screw you. They'll just stop the gas. They'll just stop the oil to the West. And the West is going to be like, oh no, you know, we need that oil, we need that gas. And Russia's going to say, all right, we'll give it to you, but you need to pay back what you owe. You need to pay back that 300 billion you've stole. Then we'll start sending you the oil and gas. And if they don't pay it back, they're going to have to, you know, pay for really expensive oil and gas from America. And America's just not going to have enough. You know, you need at least 5 to 10 years to set up these LNG terminals and tankers and stuff. There is not going to be enough gas if Russia decides to shut it down. So if the Europeans are thinking of stealing that money, it's going to really come back to haunt them, and it's going to hit them really hard where it hurts. And I just don't think they have the guts to do that, because as soon as they do that, Russia will just stop the oil and stop the gas as well. So I doubt if they will do that, but if they do, I wouldn't put it past them. I'm sure Ursula is probably pushing for it. You have all of these idiots pushing for it in Europe, and you have all of these sheep as well, basically singing to their tune, apart from Orban. But I wouldn't put it past them really. So anyway, that's all I have time for today. Let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'm starting to do live chats now, so I'm inviting a lot of my Patreons to come and have a live chat with me about a topic that they want, or topic that they're interested in. I do know a lot about the world, so I'm really happy to sit down with anyone and talk about any single subject, whether it's about Russia, whether it's about China, whether it's about Middle East, whether it's about UK, whether it's about America. I don't care, you know. I'll chat to anyone and chat about any subject. And yeah, so I'm doing that with my Patreon members. I want to kind of start building up my Patreon members, and also I've recently joined locals as well. So if you don't want to join Patreon, you're welcome to join my locals. I'm having to do live chats with you guys as well. So basically trying to give something back. I've already done my first live chat. Have a look a few days ago. Let's check it out. Obviously I need to fix a few bugs with it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to use that kind of format. And if you're shy and you don't want to show your face, or you just want to talk about your views, it's not a problem. You're welcome to just come in and just talk. There's no need to see your face. I just want to hear your views. It's going to be like a live radio show, you know. Basically you're just talking about politics and stuff, so you don't need to show your face. If you're shy, you can just talk really. So yeah, so if you want to join my Patreon, I'm happy to kind of invite you for a live chat, and we'll see how it goes really. Yeah, so I really need a bit more support with the channel. 50 patrons is not enough, guys. I'm working as you know, as an employee for the government, so right now, you know, I cannot afford to leave my job, and if I show my face in these live chats, someone's going to recognize me in the government. I'm going to get sacked with obviously my views that doesn't go along with the narrative, so I will surely get sacked, and there is no way I make enough from YouTube to carry on as a full-time YouTuber. So not at this moment anyway. So my job right now, I can't leave it. I have to carry on working to pay for the bills and stuff. But you know, if I get to a certain support limit with Patreons and with YouTube, with more kind of subscribers, then maybe I can leave my job and I can be independent from that. I can do like YouTube channels full time. But until then, you know, I'm gonna have to keep on working. So I do appreciate your support, you guys who are kind of supporting me right now. I really appreciate it. I don't forget it. So keep it coming. Even if you can't support the channel, you can always like and share, subscribe, do what you can to help. I really appreciate it. Anyway, that's all for now. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.